recording. All right, let's get to this. Linear functions. All right, some basic review. Plot the following points on the number plane provided. What you want to remember from this is that you're going to have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Very straightforward. X is before y, so if you've got to plot this in, x is positive 3 and then go up 2, and that would be a. If you had the point D, x is negative 2, so you're going to go in the x direction, negative 2, which is somewhere here, and then you're going to go up 4, and that would be D. Nice and simple. This won't be in your exam, but just so you know, you're going to get questions that are simple like that. And obviously vice versa, you've got to be able to read from a diagram and plot the coordinates. So we'll just do J. J has coordinates of x in the x direction of 4, and then in the y direction of negative 4. So J is x is 4, y is negative 4. Again, x is 4, y is negative 4. All right, any questions at this stage?
No, no questions.
Perfect. All right, finding the midpoint of an interval. That's the first formula you've got to learn. So the problem, so let me just explain something to you guys before we continue with this. Linear functions. It's not a topic like, let's say, Pythagoras, something that you would have done last year, where if you know the formula, you can do really well, and that's it. It's not really complicated. There is only the one formula, right? With linear functions, however, it's very similar to another topic called surface area and volume, let's say, right? With surface area and volume, there's a lot of formulas. Now, you either memorize all the formulas and know when to use them and how to use them, and you can get easily above 90%. You memorize the formulas and you kind of mix and match by accident, you can probably get less than 50%. You'll fail. So it's either you know it and you know it very well and you're done, or you absolutely don't know it. There is no in between. Linear functions is exactly the same. You either know it, so you're going to do really well, or you think you know it and then you mix and match, which means you don't know it, and you'll actually fail. So linear functions can be a really easy topic because it's formula based, but if you mix and match the formulas, it's going to look really bad. So just so you know, bit of a heads up. All right, the first formula, find the midpoint of an interval. It's actually really easy. The midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 on 2, comma, y1 plus y2 on 2. All right, so in your booklets, I want you to write, for example, so the topic's obviously linear functions, so you would write midpoint, and then midpoint formula, x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. Now, x1 and x2 and y1 and y2, well, all they are they're just describing the points, right? So x1 is your first x coordinate, x2 is your second x coordinate, y1, these are y's, so that would be y1, and this is y2. So the second coordinate is 2's, your first coordinate is 1's. And that's all the x1 and x2 are. All right, anyone have any questions at this stage? So we know the formula now. It's x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. So to find the midpoint of the interval of AB, the midpoint is x1 plus x2, right? That's the formula. So 1 plus 5 over 2, comma, 2 plus 4 over 2. So therefore your midpoint is 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 over 2 is 3, 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 over 2 is also 3. All right, any questions at this stage? Anyone not understanding what we're doing?
No, no questions.
Good, good stuff. All right. Then we'll do it again. So find the midpoint of these two. Again, this is x1. This will be y1, right? X and y. A lot of students, you know what they will do. The ones that mix this up, the first mistake they do is write x1 and then write x2. You know that's not right. It's got to be x's here and then y's here. So back to it. x1, y1, x2, y2. So then if we follow the formula is just add up your two x's and divide them by 2. So minus 2 plus 4, minus 2 plus 4 on 2, comma, add up your two y's, divided by 2. So 4 plus minus 2 on 2. Therefore, your midpoint is, that is 2 on 2 is 1. 2 on 2 is also 1. Now, of course, if you want to see this graphically, it's very easy to plot. A is 1 and 2, 1 and 2, that's A. B is 5 and 4, 5 and 4. And if we found the midpoint as 3 and 3, so x is 3 and 3, and that pretty much makes sense. You can see it's halfway between where these and this would be equal to each other. And same thing for this one, but we're not going to do that. All right, at this stage, any questions? So midpoint needs to be memorized. It's not hard to memorize it. I just think about it the way I was just explaining here. Add your two x's and then divide them by 2. Half of your two x's, and same thing, half of your two y's. That which makes logical sense. If I came up to you and said, hey, if I'm in the midpoint of something, you would say, okay, add the two things up and then divide them by 2. Right? So that's my logic. It's a bit easier than sometimes memorizing formulas. Okay, good. There it is. There's your formula. That's just doing it again. We'll do it one more time, I guess. All right, determine, example 5, determine the midpoint of the interval. Well, first I would like to label them. It's just a bit easier to deal with. A, x is 3. Y value is 9. B, x value is 10. Y value is 1. Now that you've got your I guess your coordinates, it's good to label them so you don't make a mistake. And then of course we know the formula is x1 plus x2 onto y1 plus y2 onto, and just a matter of substituting it in. 3 plus 10 and then 9 plus 1, which is 5. Easy?
Hey sir, sorry, I just joined now.
That's okay. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Perfect. We were just doing midpoint. x1 plus x2 on 2. y1 plus y2 on 2. That's our midpoint formula. We're doing a topic called linear functions. Now, it's okay. The lesson's recorded.
Okay.
So the first few minutes that you missed, you can just go back and
Yeah,
and watch it. We didn't do much, to be honest with you. We're just
No.
doing point. So you didn't miss out on much.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
Aye. No, all good. All right. Example 6. Example 6. Let's do it. The interval AB has midpoint M. Okay, so the midpoint's given to you this time. B has coordinates 3 and 8. Determine the coordinates of A. Okay, so think about this. You know B has coordinates 3, 3 and 8. So somewhere there. That is B. You know the midpoint of B, which is 5 and 3. right there. That's 5, and that would be 3. That is the midpoint. And of course, you would assume A would be somewhere here, right? So then that's that, and then you would assume, I don't know, let's just say A somewhere there. We're just going to take a good guess, right? We'll work that out properly, but I'm just trying to say, so at least you roughly know how this is working. They've given you the midpoint, 5 and 3. You already have B, which is 3 and 8. You're trying to work out A, which we don't know, right? But what we're going to label A as is X and Y. We don't know it, so they're labeled as X and Y's. Now the thing is, you don't ever change, right? So something you're going to learn in math is you don't change regardless of how the question changes. So what we mean by don't change is, you know the formula. The midpoint formula was x1 plus x2 on 2 and y1 plus y2 on 2. So the midpoint would have been 3 plus x on 2 and 8 plus y on 2, right? That would have been the midpoint, 3 plus x on 2 and then 8 plus y on 2. Anyone have any questions at this stage? Okay, but we know what the midpoint is. The midpoint is 5 and 3. The actual midpoint is 5 and 3. So we now know 3 plus x on 2, this x coordinate must equal to 5. And same thing with this. 8 plus y on 2 must equal to 3. Right? Because the midpoint is 5 and 3, but we know that the midpoint should have been 3 plus x divided by 2. And same thing with this one. 8 plus y divided by 2. So the x value here must equal to the x value here. Let me highlight that. The x value here must equal to the x value there. And then obviously the y value must equal to the y value. And that's pretty much what I've written down here. And then all you're going to do at this stage is just some simple equations. So how do we solve for x? First you'll times it by 2. So you're left with 3 plus x equals 5 times 2 is 10. And then you're going to subtract your 3, which means x equals 7. And then same thing with this one. You're going to solve for y. So you're going to times this one by 2. So you're left with 8 plus y is equal to 6. And then you're going to subtract your 8. You just found your x and y. So now you know that it's around 7. Oh, that was a pretty good guess. Look, I guessed at 7 and at -2. I think that's a pretty good guess. And there it is, exactly right. And you can tell that they're pretty much the same size. Well, there you go, 7 and -2. This will be in your exam. 100%, I can tell you guys, all of you right now, your exam will have this question. Because what we know is that a lot of top students will eventually memorize the formulas, and like the questions here in example 5, I mean, they get pretty easy. But we know that students usually struggle with doing it backwards because you've got a bit of equation skills that you've got to deal with. So therefore they like testing these. So any questions about this one? Anyone want me to go through something in a little bit more detail? No? It's all making sense so far?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Anyone need to write anything down?
No.
No, because I will send this booklet, like I said, once we finish with it. But it will be good if you want to make your own notes at the same time. Pretty much the same question, but we'll do it again. If M is the midpoint of A and B, that means B is somewhere, again, if we take an educated guess, B is somewhere here. Find the coordinates of B. Okay, so what's step 1? Well, we don't know what B is, right? So we're going to label that as X and Y. We know what A is. A is specifically -5 and -2. And we know what m is. M is -1 and 1. So something we know, something we know, something we don't know, we usually label them as x's, or in this case, x's and y's. And then you just do it again. So if you know the formula by now, it's going to be adding x with -5 divided by 2. So x plus -5 on 2, and then y plus -2 on 2, right? That would be your midpoint of a and b. Add the x's, divide them by 2. Add your y's, divide them by 2. What must this equal to? What must the top one equal to? If you're going to add your x's and divide them by
Negative.
2. What? Yeah, say it again, sorry.
-1.
Perfect. And then this one obviously is equal to the y value, which is 1. And then you just solve. Times it by 2. So you're going to be left with x minus 5 equals -2. Add 5. There's your x value. And then times this one by 2. You're left with y take away 2 equals 2. Y equals 4. And we're done. Let's see if my guess was good. 3, 4. Oh, I'm doing well today. That's 3, that's 4. There we go. Another good guess. Please don't think that this works all the time. This is just, honestly, it's just a guess. So don't do that. And just always go, oh yeah, Sam did it, so I'm going to do it as well. It's just, that was a pure guess. Okay, and at this stage, if you're struggling with the equation skills, it's up to you. Like, I know some of you might be doing times 2, and then crossing out. Do whatever you've got to do. And then here, if you're plussing 2 and plussing 2, do what you've got to do. To me, obviously, I do my math a little bit differently, so I can just see it that you're going to go 2 plus 2. Here, I can tell it's just 1 times 2, so I don't need to write it. If you feel like you need to write it, please do so. All right, I'll leave that one for homework. Point T is the midpoint of RA. Yeah, that's easy. The T is the midpoint of R and A. And it just says which quadrant would it lie in. Once you work out the point T, you'll straight away know which quadrant it is. So that's easy. All right. All right, easy, 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 easy. We'll come and do these harder ones all the time. All right, done. All right, any questions at this stage? Otherwise, we're moving on. We're finding the distance now of an interval. Okay, so to find the distance of an interval, you know, back in year 8, you were using this formula, right? C squared equals A squared plus B squared, Pythagoras' theorem. So nice and simple, not too complicated. C was very important though. It was called the hypotenuse, which is opposite your right angle. So that's very important that you remember that. Otherwise, A and B didn't really matter which one they were. A and B is just your sides. So calculate the value of the pronumeral. So if you want to find x, in this case, I mean, that's really easy. X squared equals 7 squared plus 4 squared. And that becomes 49 plus 16. 49 plus 16, 65. And then don't forget, you have to get rid of the squared. So you square root it. And that would have been the answer that we're looking for x. Anyone have any questions about this Pythagoras question here?
No.
Then we also had where we had to find the shorter side. If you remember, your shorter side, you would have usually used this formula. You would have subtracted, because obviously you're trying to find the smaller side, not the longer side. So a squared, or in this case d squared, is equal to 34 squared minus 30 squared. Now we'll need a calculator, which I don't think I have nearby. So give me 2 minutes. No, won't have it yet. Can someone work that out for me? 34 squared take away 30 squared. Someone have a calculator next to them?
256.
Thank you very much. And then square root that should be 16. Yep, 16. Is it right?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. So don't forget this is d squared, so you've got to still square root it, and then square root of 256 is 16. All right, beautiful. So that was basic. It won't really be tested in year 9, but I mean, it's there. So let's have a look. To find the distance between the 2 points on another plane that lie on the same horizontal line, find the difference in the x values. All right. So the formula we will be needing is this. Looks scary, doesn't it? Which is why I said to you guys before we started this, I said you're either going to do really well with this topic, which means you're going to be bothered to memorize and the formulas and know how they work, and you should get above 90% easily in this topic, or you just go, whoa, so hard, I can't do this, and obviously it's not going to look good. So let's read this properly. D, distance formula, D equals the square root, open bracket. Now it doesn't matter if you wrote 1 or 2, we're just going to use 2 for now, x2, then minus x1 squared plus, open bracket, y2 minus y1 squared. Close bracket, and then that's it. Now, before we continue, what I usually do, just so your hand can get used to this, can you guys all go ahead and copy this down about 5 times on a piece of paper? Literally all you're doing is just copying this. D equals square root, open bracket, x2 minus x1 squared plus. Just so you can get used to the writing of it first. And I'm going to go grab a calculator. All right, it is a little bit annoying to write, which is why I'm making you write it a few times. Okay, so D equals square root, open bracket, subtract your x's squared plus subtract your y's squared. So ready? Find the distance, correct the 2 decimal places. I think the best thing always is label them x1, y1, x2, y2. Then it's pretty easy to follow, right? Watch this. D equals square root, open bracket, x2 minus x1, x2 minus x1 squared plus, open bracket, y2, which is 6, minus y1. y1 is negative 2, so there's another negative 2, and then squared. I'll pause there. Any questions? Is anyone not able to see how I use the formula and these coordinates to obtain this particular expression? Anyone confused? Okay, that's good. Now at this stage, what we do, it's good to not put your square root in your calculator. I like to teach that because eventually you're going to get questions that don't say to 2 decimal places. They say keep it in the exact form. An exact form means you have to have the square root in there. So this is what you're going to do. Next line, you don't put this in your calculator. You'll put all of this bracket in your calculator exactly as you see it. So I want you all to try to put this in your calculator to make sure we can all get the same answer. So exactly as you see this, I'm going to put open bracket 4, take away 1, close bracket, squared, plus open bracket 6, take away 2, close bracket, squared, equals. All right, I got 73. If anyone's not able to get 73, please let me know. Okay. Everyone's able to get that?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Good work. All right, done. So then that's it. And then because the question in this case, it did say write it to 2 decimal places, what you can do now, you're just going to put the square root of 73. And then that just becomes what? 8.54. So it's better to keep it exact form, because for the harder questions, you'll definitely need it to be in exact. This one says decimal places, so there it is. Just plug that into your calculator now and finish it off. Good work. Let's do it again. D equals square root. Subtract your x's. So 4, again, let's label it x1, y1, x2, y2. So this, take away this. So 4, take away -1. Squared plus, open bracket, y2 minus 6 minus 3 squared. Again, I'm not going to put the square root in my calculator. I'm going to just write the inside out. I got 106, and then when I square root that, I get 10.30. All right, I'll pause for a minute. Let me know if you weren't able to get that. Okay. Any questions? All right. Too easy. Too easy. That shouldn't be too hard. M is the midpoint. What is the distance from A to M? Okay, let's do that. So that's a bit of a more of an exam style question. Again, just take it one step at a time. Believe me, you'll be surprised at how simple they can be. And I think a good tip that I'm still teaching to some of the Year 12 students is every time you see a full stop in math, it actually means stop, and that's one piece of information, or that's one step. That's a pretty good clue to remember. So in this case, for example, it says M is the midpoint of A and B, full stop. That means that's pretty much one piece of information. You should be able to do something to that. We'll continue. What is the distance from A to M? Well, okay, if I wanted to find the distance of A, I have that, to M. I don't have M. But then I know that I've got to first find M, right? And that's what that full stop's there pretty much telling you to do. So to find M, M is the midpoint of A and B. All right, can anyone tell me how to find the midpoint of A and B? What do we remember the formula being?
Is it x1 plus y1?
Or close. X1 plus X2 on 2, and then comma, Y1 plus Y2 on 2. midpoint. Good job. And again, you guys can see what I meant by you either get 100 or you get 0. So it's not really a topic where you can start it with the wrong formula, because if you start with the wrong formula, everything's wrong. So you either know your formulas or you don't. So please be careful. Linear functions are really poorly done at your grade. So you guys spend a bit of time on this. Spend a bit of time memorizing the formulas. Me at your grade, I would have written them down, I don't know, let's say 15, 20 times each one, and then eventually you memorize them and you're done. So don't get lazy with it. Just memorize them and it'll be easier for you. All right, here we go. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. All right, X1, so it'll be 6 plus 2 on 2, and then 5 plus 2 on 2. So that pretty much your M coordinate is 4 and 7 over 2, which is 7 over 2, or you could have written as a decimal if you wanted to, 3.5. So whatever, it doesn't really matter which one you would use. I think for most students the decimal is easier to read than the fraction. What is the distance from A to M? So now that you're done, we're trying to find the distance. Distance is this massive formula: x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1. All right, here we go. M. So M and okay. So now this is your x2 technically. 4 take away 6 plus y2, which is 3.5, take away 5. 3.5 take away 5. And it's just a matter of plugging that into your calculator and finishing it off. Distance of AM, I'm like, right? Just so you guys know that was for AM. Okay, any questions about this? So you can see multiple steps, right? This question in an exam would generally be worth 3 marks. I'm just getting the answer out. This is 6.25, and then the square root of that is 2.5. Okay, any questions? All right, perfect. Okay, what about this question, example 16? Is the point A closer to B or C? All right, what do you think you have to do to find this question out? Is the point A closer to B or C? Is it asking for the midpoint or the distance when it's talking about closer?
Distance.
The distance. So what you've got to do, you've got to find the distance of AB, find the distance of AC, and then obviously you'll know if the distance here, let's say, was 5 and the distance here was 4, you would say, well, the distance of AC is smaller than AB, so A is closer to C than it is to B. So let's have a look. Let's find it out. So distance of AB, A and B. All right. Square root, open bracket, -3, take away 3, squared, plus. You're realizing it's all formulas. Square root, AC, -1, take away 3, squared, plus, open bracket, y, 1, take away 2, 1, take away 2, squared. All right, let me work them out. While I'm working it out, let me know if you've got any questions. And I'll just get this as a decimal. This became 8.49. This one. Became obviously 4.123. I think from there you can tell the distance here is smaller than this distance. Therefore, A is closer to C. Right? The distance is only 4, whereas this distance is 8. So A is closer to C than it is to B. So you can see it's a simple question. If you don't know your formulas, it's an impossible question. And I guess a little bit extra with this one, if you didn't know closer meant distance, then you would have got the wrong formula out as well. Okay, any questions? All right, example 17. Show that the triangle with vertices A, B, and C is isosceles. Okay, firstly, what does that mean? What does isosceles mean?
It's a type of triangle.
Yep. What do you know about that triangle?
Two sides are equal.
Two sides are equal. That means if I've got a triangle, which we're going to label quickly as A, B, and C, that means any two sides have to be the exact same distance. So all you're going to do is find the distance of AB, find the distance of AC, and find the distance of BC, and two of these have to be exactly the same. So let's say it would have been 3, 4, and 4. Therefore, it's an isosceles. If it obviously became 4, 4, and 4, it's no longer isosceles, it's an equilateral, which disproves what the question's asking, which means you've done something wrong. If you get all four of them being different, all three of them, sorry, being different, then you've also done something wrong, because saying it's got to be an isosceles. So all you're going to get is something like that, or maybe something like this. Whatever. As long as you're going to show that two of the sides are equal. So, very simple question. All you're going to do is, like I said, find the distance of AB, find the distance of AC, find the distance of BC, and fingers crossed, if you haven't done it wrong, two of these should be exactly the same. All right, I'm going to leave that for homework. All right, very good. Up to gradients. Last, I guess, formula that you really need to know for points, for coordinates. So there are three formulas that you need to know for coordinates. The first one was midpoint, the second one was distance, and the third one's the gradients of a line. Now, again, just like in distance with Pythagoras, you've started gradients. You did gradients using rise over run. The formula we're going to use now, because of coordinates, is this one here. So write down gradient formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And yes, we use the letter m for gradients. We don't use the letter G. Right, we use M for midpoint, so you don't get confused. That's why I was writing MP, midpoint. So M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, written that down. Keep in mind, if you guys remember this, if something is sloped to the left, like this one is, slope to the left, it's negative. If something is sloped to the right, it's positive. So slope to the left, negative, slope to the right, positive. If it's got no slope, which means it's flat, it's zero. So it's got a zero gradient, right? It's got no slope, so that's zero gradient. And if something's vertical, that's undefined. Undefined. You don't have any gradient there. It's not zero, and it's not positive or negative, it's undefined. We can't actually work out that gradient. All right. So determine whether the following gradients are positive, negative, zero, or undefined. Very easy. Slope to the right, positive. Slope to the left, negative. Slope to the right, positive. Vertical, undefined. Slope to the left, negative. Slope to the left, negative. Slope to the right, positive, and it's flat. Flat has zero gradient. All right, I think that's pretty easy. It's more the formula that you need to know. No. Go back. What's happening? Too big. This hasn't happened before. You guys still there, or did I lose you on Skype as well as my computer frozen?
No,
Yeah.
we can still hear you.
You guys still hear me, but this is gone. Yeah, that's this program. Let's hope we didn't lose all of our solutions. Usually it restores it. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yep, everything's back. Now let's hope it doesn't crash where it crashed earlier. Radiant. It is crashing exactly there. Something's wrong with that page. Alright, let me stop this recording.